Hawa, Brakatha Yahweh Shai, Brakatha Yahweh, Brakatha Yahweh Shai, Call Halal Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Raha Kadash. Double honors to our elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and salutations to the hopeful elect scattered across the four winds, and double honors to the men that taught our elders and apostles. This is your brother Yakar Aben from Great Millstone, Houston, with another lesson. An individual asked me, I guess today, this morning, what was the deal with the Christians always saying love your neighbor. What is the deal with that? So I thought that I would most of well the Christians, they really don't even know what love is. They believe love is a feeling and that you're supposed to just feel warm and fuzzy with everybody, but that's not what that means. That is not what love means. So we're going to go into the scriptures and we're going to explain that what love really is. Love is an action word. Love is not a feeling or an emotion. Let's see what they have to say. Love definition. Let's just see what the definition for love. See, it says love is a complex emotion and behavioral state characterized by deep affection, intense attraction, and a care for another person. Okay, beyond just a feeling, it often manifests as an active commitment and a selfless willingness to support the well being and happiness of the people or thing you cherish. Okay, so all of these is there, but not quite just it. I mean, yes, love is the active commitment and selfless willingness to support the well-being of the persons or things you cherish. Not happiness. Happiness has nothing to do with love. You know, love is a standard according to the scriptures. We're going to get into it. This is Romans chapter 13 and verse 8. It says, "Owe no man anything but to love one another, for he that loveth another hath fulfilled the law." Okay, so if you love another, you fulfill the law. This is a G25 agapeo, agapeo of persons to welcome, to entertain, to be fond of, to love dearly of things, to be well pleased, to contend or with a thing. Let's see, it goes back to H5658. It says, have an inordinate affection of lust, paramours. I have to look that up. Igab. Okay, but we're gonna see what it says. It says, so for this thou shalt not commit adultery. Okay, so we understand that adultery is sleeping with another man's wife. You know, sleeping with another man's wife is adultery. That means, okay, we'll get that real quick. We'll get the definition of that in the scriptures. Uh, Romans, I think 7. This is it. This is Romans chapter 7 and verse 1. It says, "But ye know, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law, how that the law hath dominion over a man as long as he liveth." It says, "For the woman which hath an husband is bound by the law to her husband so long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of her husband. So then, if while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress. But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man." So that being said, that is the definition of adultery. So if a man sleeps with another man's wife, he is an adulterer. And if a woman is married to a man, if a man has gone into her, but this is not what this lesson's about, but if a man has gone into her, she's supposed to be with that man until that man dies, or else anyone she sleeps with is an adulterer, and she becomes an adulteress. But uh, back to Romans 13, it says, "For this thou shalt not commit adultery, thou shalt not kill." And we understand that there's a difference between killing and murdering. You know, what this means is thou shalt not murder. Okay, because there are things in the law wherein you're justified to take someone's life. But this means thou shalt not murder. You can't kill a man for no reason. Just because just because you want to take his land. Thou shalt not steal. We understand what stealing is. It says thou shalt not bear false witness. So you shouldn't bear false witness or lie in account of where you're testifying against somebody. You're saying that they did something that they didn't do. Slander. It says thou shalt not covet. So covet, you shouldn't want somebody else's stuff. And plot and plan to get somebody else's things. It says thou shalt not covet. And if there be any other commandment, it is briefly comprehended in this saying, namely, thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. It says, love worketh no ill to his neighbor. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. So when it says love everybody, that means hold them to the standard of the law. We're going to get that. It's in Leviticus 19. It says, let's get it. This is Leviticus 19 and 11. It says, ye shall not steal, neither deal falsely, neither lie one to another, and ye shall not swear by my name falsely, neither shalt thou profane the name of thy power. I am Yahweh. Thou shalt not defraud thy neighbor, neither rob him. The wages that is hired, that is the wages of him that is hired shall not abide with thee all night until the morning. So fulfilling the law, is love. Fulfilling the law is life. We're supposed to be separate. We're not supposed to be like the heathens. And love, the fulfillment of love is, I'll get a few more of these. The fulfillment of love is keeping the law. Because if you love someone like you love yourself, right? You don't want somebody sleeping with your woman. You don't want somebody stealing from you. You don't want somebody, defrauding you or lying on you. You don't want somebody feeding you bad food. So why would you do that to your brother? And when it says neighbor, it's not talking about the person that lives next to you. It means somebody of your nation, of your tribe. It doesn't mean, the guy that lives across the street. No, when we're reading the Bible, we're talking about the body of the Israelites. Love thy neighbor means love thy brethren, the people, your kinsmen, your fellow kinsmen according to the flesh. It doesn't mean just the guy that lives across the street, because we have enemies. Your enemy can't be your neighbor. Well, no, Salakia, let me refrain that. We're not supposed to have enemies of our people. Although we still cannot defraud them or go against the law against them. Basically we're supposed to avoid them. But it says thou shalt not curse the deaf, nor put a stumbling block before the blind, nor shalt shalt fear thy power. I am Yahweh. Ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the persons of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty, but thou in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor. Thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer, a tattleteller, or a gossiper among thy people. Neither shalt thou stand against the blood of thy neighbor. I am Yahweh. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in no wise, thou shalt in Salakia. This is Leviticus 19 and 17. It says, thou shalt not hate thy brother in thine heart. Thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor and not suffer sin upon him. So, as a Israelite, you're not supposed to allow your neighbor, one of your fellow countrymen, to sin. And we know that sin is transgression of the law. And we got that word for neighbor here is I'm Yath. It says a primitive root meaning to associate, companionship, hits consecrately a comrade or kindred man, another fellow neighbor, relation, neighbor, associate, fellow. So a comrade or kindred man. So, it's not meaning, all people, but the Heavenly Father has given us the things that are pleasing, so we're supposed to follow what it is that the Heavenly Father said. I'm gonna back that up with a couple more, but this is John chapter 14 and verse 15. It says, if you love me, keep my commandments. So love means keeping of the commandments. We're going to jump down. It says, he that hath my commandments and keep them, he it is that loveth me, and he that loveth me shall be loved of my Father, and I will love him and will manifest myself to him. So this is Yahweh Shah saying, hey, if you love him, keep the commandments. And the commandments are not grievous. This is the law that abides forever. But let me get that. That's Matthew 5. Matthew 5, I think. Let's see. This is it. This is Matthew 5 and 17. It says, think not that I am come to destroy the law or the prophets. I am not come to destroy, but to fulfill. For verily I say unto you, till heaven and earth pass, one jot or one tittle shall in no wise pass from the law to all be fulfilled. So whosoever therefore shall break one of these least commandments and shall teach men so, he shall be called the least in the kingdom of heaven. But whosoever shall do and teach them, he shall be called great in the kingdom of heaven. So the commandments are, the law is where you get love from. That's the standard. That's the standard. The standard is holding your brother accountable, holding your sister accountable for the things that they do, and letting them know when they go off. And when you let your brother, your neighbor know that they're going off, sometimes it's not going to make them happy, but it doesn't matter. That's love. Love is holding them to a higher standard, because we're supposed to be separate from the heathen. Let me get this. This is Baruch chapter 4 and verse 1. It says, this is the book of the commandments of the Most High, and the law that endureth forever. All they that keep it shall come to life, but such as leave it shall die. Turn thee, O Jacob, and we understand Jacob is talking about Israel, the Israelites, all 12 tribes. Turn thee, O Jacob, and take hold of it, walk in the presence of the light thereof, that thou mayest be illuminated. It says, give not thine honor to another, nor the things that are profitable unto thee to a strange nation. So, this is for us. This is not for the other nations. This is for us. This is our wisdom in the sight of all the nations. But, they're going to learn it on the other side. When Yahweh Shah comes back, the heathen are going to have to abide by the rules of the Heavenly Father, which, as Israel, we already know, or we should know. Yes, there was a falling away, but we should know. And it says, O Israel, happy are we, for the things that are pleasing to the Most High are made known unto us. So we understand what the Most High, what He wants, and what's pleasing to Him. What's pleasing to Him, What is that? That's in, I think I just read it. It said, Baruch 3. Be holy. Hold on. For I am holy. Hold on. It's right there in Baruch. Or maybe not. Oh yeah, that's in Leviticus 18. No, Leviticus 19. It says, and Yahweh spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto all the congregation of the children of Israel, and say unto them, ye shall be holy. And people don't really understand what holy means. It's Quadash, H6918, Quadash. It says Quadash from H642. We'll get that in a second. It says sacred, ceremonial, or morally, as noun, Most High by eminence, an angel, a saint, sanctuary, holy one, saint. It says sacred, holy, holy one, saint, set apart. So we're supposed to be set apart, holy, set apart. And let's get that. Quadash, to consecrate, sanctify, prepare, dedicate, be hallowed, be holy, be sanctified, be separate, to be set apart, to be consecrated. Okay, and let's get that word, consecrated. Consecrated, it says consecrated means to declare something sacred or to solemnly set it apart for a religious purpose or a high dedicated calling. Okay, so the Israelites are set apart for the Most High, and we're dedicated to His calling. He called the Israelites His people. So we're supposed to live by a higher standard because the Lord made us, better than the other people. And we'll get that and close it out. Deuteronomy 7, chapter 7. Oh, it's not 78. It's like, oh yeah, we can go 7 and 8. This is Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6. It says, for thou art an holy people, separate people, unto Yahweh thy power. Yahweh thy power hath chosen thee to be a special people unto Himself. Quadash, holy, above all the people that are upon the face of the earth. It says, Yahweh did not set His love upon you, nor choose you, because you were more in number than any people, for ye were the fewest of all people, but because Yahweh loved you, and because he would keep the oath which he had sworn unto your fathers, hath Yahweh brought you out with a mighty hand and redeemed you out of the house of bondage from the hand of Pharaoh, king of Egypt. So, we are supposed to be set apart. And in that being set apart, we're supposed to, you know, follow the law. And the fulfillment of the law is love. The fulfillment of the law is love, because guess what? If you, you know, if Israel sins or goes against the law, there are some laws that are worthy of death. They're supposed to be publicly executed to root that out of Israel. You know, let's see. Let's get an example of that. Oh, it was it's in that Leviticus 19. Where are we? Leviticus 19. Okay. An example, Leviticus 19 and 29, it says, "Do not prostitute thy daughter to cause her to be a whore, lest the land fall to whoredom and the land become full of wickedness." Yeah, so you're not supposed to do these things, and in the Israelite community, it's perfectly fine for our women to walk around in lewd attire, but that's not how that's supposed to go. That's why we're serving our enemy in captivity, because we can't, in this present world, you can't go up to any woman and tell them, hey, you need to put some damn clothes on, or else, because Esau has given these females the liberty to walk around looking like whores. And guess what? It's promoted. It's lifted up. But we're not supposed to do that. We're supposed to love a person. You're supposed to let them know, but we have to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves, because the Esau has given people liberty to do these things, and there's nothing we can do about it. This is part of our lesson of being under the heathen because of not following our own law. But the love is fulfillment of the law. You know, love is keeping the law and keeping your brother to a standard. With that being said, I'd like to give all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Roha Kadash. Double honors to our elders and apostles, the great millstone, and peace and salutations to the hopeful elect. Hopefully, this lesson was edifying. And I want to say Quam Bakarium, which means rise up, the elect of Israel. Shalom.